we already discussed about the macromolecules, and we ended up on proteins, and we learned that the body, it contains a variety of proteins, and these proteins have several functions, so including the enzymes. So for today, we will be discussing on enzymes. For the introduction to enzymes, these are the topics involved, wherein we have the enzyme composition and nomenclature, classification, enzyme action, and factors affecting enzyme activity, as well as coenzymes and cofactors. These enzymes, they actually play a big role in biochemical reaction. So for us to be able to master this topic, these are our learning objectives. So first is to discuss what enzymes are made of and how they are named. Those are the basics. Explain how enzymes are classified by reaction type and give key examples. So that's for the part one of our discussion today. And for tomorrow, so we will have the enzyme, mechanism of action, and identify the major factors that affect their activity. And lastly, we will define and distinguish what are coenzymes and cofactors, which are associated with enzymes as they play a key role in the metabolism in the body. So before we start, I thought of a way of how can we possibly remember the important and different enzymes that have different functions, different names, and for that, I hope this analogy will work. So of course, enzymes, they are most of the time represented as Pac-Man. So what's your favorite game in sa arcade or karon unsa na bang uso so mga role-playing games? Probably kay ako dili man ko ga Mobile Legends. So kamoy bahala kung unsay ganahan ninyo na game. But for this one, we will be using Pac-Man. We most of the time use Pac-Man to represent an enzyme because of its simple na representation na ingani siya, and it looks like it has an active site using its mouth. So here, in the enzyme world, think of Pac-Man as an enzyme protein part, and it is running around doing the core work. So sometimes si Pac-Man, wala man siya gender siguro, so it needs a special power pellet that likes a cofactor or coenzyme. So later we'll be discussing what is a cofactor or coenzyme, because not all enzymes will need a cofactor or coenzyme. And si Pac-Man, to get the supercharge and do his job properly, when he's at it, he needs to be fully powered. So some enzymes without this power pellet, Pac-Man is still present but less effective. So later we'll know what we call those enzymes. And when he has the enzyme, so we also have a different name for that, and he's at full speed. And for naming enzymes, we also have different systems. So here we name Pac-Man as Pac-Munch-Ace, then it's here is the systematic name for Pac-Man. So unsa kaha ang reaction na ginakatalyze ni Pac-Man. So we know that the enzymes, they function to catalyze different biochemical reactions. So let's begin by recalling that most enzymes are proteins, so most enzymes. And they are long chains of enzyme or amino acids folded into three specific three-dimensional structure. And we have classification of enzymes are divided into two, the simple enzymes and the conjugated enzymes. So for the first one, we have the simple enzymes, or we also call this proteolytic enzymes or simple proteins in some other references. and they are composed of only amino acid chains. So it's a simple enzyme. It is fully functional on its own. So this means to say, since its function is to catalyze a reaction with its catalytic activity, so it only needs its entire structure. Wala na siya kinahanglan na coenzyme or cofactor. So no additional non-protein components required for it to catalyze a reaction. And we have examples here, digestive proteases like trypsin and pepsin. So for digestive enzymes, so we actually have specific digestive enzymes for carbohydrates, for fats, and for proteins. So these are just examples. So the next one, the conjugated enzyme. So this is the protein portion of an enzyme. So we have it consists of two actually. So we have two here, the apoenzyme and a holoenzyme. So when the enzyme has all the required parts, so if it has a protein and a non-protein helper, wherein the non-protein helper can be a cofactor or a coenzyme, it's a holoenzyme. But if it's just ang apoenzyme, it's without any of these non-protein helper parts. So you call that the apoenzyme, as you can see here. So for it to be activated, ang conjugated enzyme, so it needs the help of a cofactor. So it can now be activated and mahimo na siyang holoenzyme, which is the biologically active conjugated enzymes. So we have also the part of the enzyme where the substrate binds, and we call that the active site. So later on, we'll see what is the use of the active site. So that's where the cofactors and cofactors, coenzymes, and substrate will interact with the enzyme. But first, let's begin with the simple topics. So, i-master sa nato si naming. So, easy lang man ni siya si naming. We have the common naming system. We also have the systematic naming. So as I have mentioned, the enzymes are named using two methods. So we have the first one, which is the common naming system. And basically, the first rule is that we have a suffix AES or ACE to the substrate. So for example, we have amylase, which is used to break down starch, and lipase, which is used to break down lipids. We also have other examples such as sucrase, so that's the enzyme to act which breaks down sucrose. And we also have the next one, which is they are also commonly named based on their reaction. So the name can also describe the reaction it actually catalyzes. So for example, we have the phosphatase, wherein it functions to catalyze a reaction where you need to remove a phosphate group in order to transfer it. So pwede siya from ATP to another substrate. And we also have, so one also that transferred a phosphate group from ATP to a substrate, we have also a kinase. So we actually have different groups that can remove or transfer enzymes that are grouped because they can remove or transfer other functional groups. So basically, there's still an organic chemical reaction involved here, but in order for the reaction to occur, we need the help of these enzymes. So, kani siya ang example for basing it on their reactions. And take note that we have exceptions wherein we have our earlier example, trypsin and pepsin. So as you can see in their names, they don't have A's, but there only a few Enzymes which do not follow this AES in their name and kung based sa ilahang reaction type. So just a few of these enzymes are named differently. So we also have another naming system, which is the systematic name. So for example, we have in L-lactate, then NAD plus, si NAD plus, so later pa ni siya when we go to the cofactors ma-introduce. But we also have here in its name the oxidoreductase. So taas kaya siya no, yung systematic name. But we have a common name for this one, lactate dehydrogenase. And it has a substrate involved in this enzyme. So your enzymes, as I have mentioned, they may have substrates, coenzymes, or cofactors. So for this enzyme, it has a corresponding substrate na pwede mag-react with this, or the lactate dehydrogenase can be involved in reactions which wherein the substrate involved is L-lactate. So kaning substrates, they are actually the compounds or substances like the reactants that are involved in the reaction. So you call that the substrate in this case when we are talking about enzymes. So also in biochemical reactions, so we usually refer to them as substrate. So here, wala pa man ta sa reaction types, but here the meaning of the acceptor is that it's the reaction involved here is actually a oxidation reduction reaction, or specifically a biological oxidation. So here specifically the enzyme catalyzes an redox reaction. So the class is an oxidoreductase. So later we'll be discussing further what is the class or which enzymes belong to the class oxidoreductase. Okay. So some enzymes they have kaning short lang na common names, but when it comes to systematic name, they are very specific. So just like this one, the enzyme commission numbering system, or we call this the EC, enzyme commission, and it actually assigns a 4-digit code. So kani siya ano lang siya for basic information. So we actually identify the enzymes using 4 digits. So kani siya ang example, wherein this one is for our example earlier, the L-lactate, NAD plus oxidoreductase. So the first thing that we'll be discussing or introducing are the first digit class. So as you can see, per digit na siya significance, but the EC is just enzyme commission. So we need to actually identify the class for the first digit. It determines the overall type of the reaction the enzyme catalyzes. So later we'll see that we actually have a number for their EC. So for example, you have, since this one is, our example is involved in redox reaction, it's actually an oxidoreductase, which is classified as EC1. So that's the meaning of EC1. But for the next digits, so for the next digits, you have the second digit as well as the third digit. They actually refer to the subclasses. So the second and the third, they look at the specific group being transferred. So depende sa reaction. Transferred ba? Is there a cleavage? Is there an isomerization? So that is what this numbers, so second and third digits indicate. And we actually use the online database system for this. For the fourth digit, for the fourth, this is a unique number that identifies the specific enzyme within its subclass. So, pwede ra gyapon ninyo i-check sa online database. So, imagine how many enzymes are there. So, let's try to have a practice exercise. So this one is probably based on your initial knowledge. So let's have practice exercise number 1. To predict the function of the following enzymes, these are common enzymes that are found in the body or that catalyzes biochemical reactions. So let's try this. Siguro 1 minute lang. Kaya. So you can just chat sa chat box. Let's do this 1 minute.